Hello, it's 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it's Thursday, July 23rd, and you must be asking yourself, what is she doing posting two podcasts in one day? Well, it has to do, again, with Tsuut'ina Nation $3 million Recovery Center controversy. Who, what, where, when, why it matters. This was just off of a TikTok notice that somebody sent me. And so, like it says, why does it matter? So I thought I better do this, because I did put a little bit of my 2 cents in for the past couple of days about just how upset I am, even when this was first brought up in 2025. So the timeline is 2025 Alberta healthcare procurement controversy involving businessman Sam Mareshi comes to light through media and investigation. That's in 2025. December 2025, the Globe and Mail investigates details Mareshi's deep ties to provincial healthcare contracts and Alberta politicians. That's what I'm saying, like it's affecting all First Nations, indigenous, Metis, and Inuit communities, because Danielle Smith wants to privatize healthcare and also separate. April 7th, 2026, the Alberta NDP demands Justice Minister Mickey Emre be fired, never over his personal ties to Mareshi, citing conflict of interest concerns. Now, I didn't know that. Okay, so that's April 7th, 2026. NDP party wants this, demands it. July 15th, 2026, the Tsuut'ina Nation files lawsuit in the Alberta Court of King's Bench against the former lawyer over $35 million provincially funded recovery center deal. Key players, and I want to put this out there because, people are listening to my podcast, and some of them are Tsuut'ina Nation members, and then they throw a monkey wrench into the whole controversy. Like, for whatever reason, they want to bring up hearsay, conspiracies, and and all that. But the reality of it is, like, this is major news here. The key players are Tsuut'ina Nation, former lawyer Terry Braun, former Chief Roy Whitney, businessman Sam Mareshi, Justice Minister Mickey Emre, and of course the Alberta NDP, the opposition. What's Tsuut'ina alleges that $35 million recovery center contract was solely sourced and not competitively tendered. Project invoices and costs show possible inflated prices, duplicating billing, and other financial irregularities. Former lawyer failed to act in the nation's best interest, BREAROC, I don't know what it looks like, ING, but it's, I don't know, it's so small printing. Fiduciary, businessmen and former chief had an undisclosed role and potential personal benefits. The other side, denial any wrongdoing with Sam Mareshi and his representatives. Statements from the government and officials, including Emery, something conflict of interest. Yeah, there's a little typo there. Like, I'm reading this from a TikTok notice, and why it matters. And this is why I'm posting this podcast live, because it's just going to be a short one. At least I hope it is. Me and my aging brain. The former lawyer and former chief have the politics in court. The case connects indigenous governance, healthcare, procurement, and poll works rights to respond in court. Now, I know people like, when stuff happens, there's always this, like, I gotta know these things. So let's see. I don't want to, let's see, it says here, from an e-talk, Danielle Smith's go-to separatist lawyer is now facing a court-ordered asset freeze over alleged inappropriation of First Nations trust money. That's Roth, raising hard questions about who the government chooses to rely on and protect. Exactly, because they're not protecting Indigenous women or their children. An Alberta separatist firebrand, embraced by Premier Danielle Smith base, is now under the Mariva orders, freezing millions in assets after Tall Cree First Nations alleged trust funds meant for their members was diverted and misused. One hand helped drive independent campaigns and UCP alleged pressure on the Premier, while the other hand is accused of reaching into the First Nations settlement trusts, a lawyer promoted by the champion of freedom, now facing scrutiny over whose futures were actually being protected. And this is the separatist leader of the Separatist Party in Alberta. His last name's Roth, R-O-T-H. So, and again, this is, I wonder what is the connection they've got tied to former chief's family. Numbered companies to spouse or trustee family members, a consultation fee without work order, so to speak. They have smoking gun on their lawyer, or their lawyer would not have put forward. So wonder what sort of trail they left behind. Most of the stuff are behind the scenes and extremely difficult to prove in court, and most companies, particularly in procurement contracts, won't leave. So, like, I know it was just hearsay, like even, 10 months ago or so, even like that the band wanted like audits, and none of the auditors in Calgary wanted to touch them, but they got somebody. Like when this man says it's really difficult to prove or to like in terms of court. So I know most of the people say that. Well, here, okay. Tsuut'ina Nation is suing former lawyer over provincially funded $35 million recovery center contracts they say was sole-sourced, overpriced, and riddled with red flag invoices. The suit links a former chief family and Alberta businessman Sam Mareshi to the deal, while Alberta's Minister of Justice faces criticism for personal ties to Mareshi and a wider healthcare procurement controversy. So this whole healthcare controversy too has to do with like fiduciary obligations that the federal government had given to the province on behalf of First Nations, Inuit, and Metis communities. And so the transition, Danielle Smith is making this like an issue and saying, well, we are going to take over this. The First Nations, Inuit, and Metis going, this is a fiduciary obligation by the Crown. So all this has to tie in with our mental health structure. So even when confronting the Minister of Mental Health and Healthcare, he has no comment. But the ripple effect in terms of how it's being sourced to the very people who need it, like the women and children, especially when it's been decades, when the last Indian residential school was closed in the 70s. And just the amount of money, like in terms of the trust money that First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities were trying to access to even have Nietzsche Institute, that's NECHI, that this Mareshi helped in closing, like during the reign of Danielle Smith. Not only that, but she had certain other chiefs in her pocket, not just Chief Roy Whitney. And of course, this is old politics. I mean, it might seem new to people who just like, oh my goodness, this is a lawsuit. But the reality of it is like this political football has been going on for decades. and the whole notion of treaty rights, not in the sense of like you owe us all this, in the sense that there's a fiduciary obligation when it comes to crown trust, and a lot of people get that mixed up with taxes when really it we're not taking money from the taxes, it's coming from the taxation of those old companies like Enbridge, who wouldn't be a company unless it wasn't for First Nations, Inuit, or Métis communities. See, that's the structure that separatists and other lawyers are sort of sucking on the tit of the oil out of Alberta, and who are they going after? First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. Like for me, it's important for me to put it on a podcast. So, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities need to really take a look, shake the tree, shake the money tree. That's an analogy of gambling. But the reality of it is, like, when we get into addictive ways of thinking and even sort of get complacent and forget like what's going to happen when we're always used to having crisis. Like a lot of Indigenous women, we have battle fatigue because of the socialization and the way the Indian Act has treated us and how embedded it is in the very psyche of our leadership, to the point where over 50% of the women in First Nations, Inuit, Métis communities are leaders. Like they're the backbone, working in administrative positions, offices, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs. And yet when it comes to the National Congress, when it's in Ottawa or whenever they have their meetings, that the voices of women aren't being heard because only chiefs are allowed to speak at these places. So again, when you give a person this kind of power and they have a lawyer, because this lawyer, Terry Braun, has been with the Tsuut'ina Nation for 25 years, give or take. And the fact that a lot of the grooming of companies within the nation, like with any new election, the contracts that are in place in case the chief and council doesn't get in are sort of set in stone. I'm sorry, it's the smoke outside. So that's what I'm saying. It was totally illegal. So, I mean, to patch your pockets before you get out of a position of power